filthy night, eh, Poirot?
It is that. Oui, Captain Marshall.
Any luck finding our Lena's photograph?
I have recovered the photograph.
You're a bloody marvel, I'll give you that. Who had it? Where was it?
An overzealous admirer of Mrs. Marshall took it.
Stolen by the writer of those damn threatening notes.
You may rest assured that is not the case. It was a lapse in judgment, to be sure, but no harm was intended.
Very well. I'll accept your request, even if I don't quite understand it. If there's anything I can do in return...
It is kind of you to offer, and indeed there may be something.
Name it.
Here is your chance, Hastings. Use the little graces. What do your deductions suggest to you would be the question most important? Your daughter had some difficulty at school, I believe?
What if she did? What has it got to do with you?
Was the school Mrs. Porter's school for the young ladies?
Yes, if you must know. But I failed to see what that could possibly have to do with anything. Thank you for the photograph. If you'll excuse me...
Well done, Hastings. A deduction worthy of Poirot. A new day, Hastings. August 25th. The day that murder came to Seadrift Island. What have we learned? Much of the mystery seems to swirl around Mrs. Marshall, or Alena Stewart as her fans call her. You agree?
Yes, that seems clear.
And two mysteries are solved. The photograph is found beneath Major Barry's pillow. The typewriter of the most charming Mademoiselle Darnley is discovered beneath the bed of the Redferns. Christine Redfern has reason to send such notes, perhaps. Her husband's attentions to Mademoiselle Stewart are obvious to all. At last, there is the murder unsolved of Millie Parsons. Why does Mademoiselle Brewster ask Poirot to take it up? Several of the guests at the Smuggler's Rest Hotel appear to have in common Brixham, the place where she died. Mademoiselle Brewster, Stephen Lane, the former vicar, even Mademoiselle Linda Marshall, who it now appears was a student at Millie's school.
Yes, Miss Porter's school for young ladies. What happened there?
Voodoo rituals? An anthropology teacher awakens in fear to the pounding of the pagan drums?
Voodoo? Nonsense, if you ask me.
Perhaps. But as Miss Darnley said, not nonsense to those who believe. And do not forget Tom Cutter's ghost. We saw.
I admit that gave me a turn. But ghosts? Voodoo? Poirot, even for you, this case has elements of the sensational. No sensible person could credit.
Perhaps. But I will give you the very important clue. Think on the nature of Alena Stewart. Watch as the investigation proceeds, Hastings. Until we can understand fully and completely exactly the kind of person Alena Stewart was, we shall not be able to see clearly the kind of person who took her life. As before, if you find yourself unable to progress, I will assist with the magic of the Finger of Suspicion.
Ah, yes. Time now for a fourth clue to its secret.
The clue is drawer.
Power, lamp, desk, drawer. Do I search the drawer for a switch, perhaps? Or is it something more subtle?
I say no more. When you are ready, my friend, we will return to Seadrift Island. It is a morning of sunshine, warm breezes, and a murder most foul.
Morning, Monsieur Poirot. Any more thoughts about what we found in the ruins?
Poirot always has the thoughts, Monsieur Lane. Who can tell which will prove to be most significant? What are your plans for this morning?
I've heard there's a fine church in these parts, St. Patrick in the Coombe. I'm going to try and track it down.
I am able to assist you in your search, I think.
Oh?
I found this pamphlet at the establishment of Mrs. Hughes in Leathercombe Bay.
Oh, this is marvelous. And there's a map and everything. Let's see, it'll make a fine hike over the moors, too. Thank you so much.
What illness forced you to leave your position?
It was... I confess it was nerves, Monsieur Poirot.
I did not mean to intrude.
No, it's quite all right. No sense in my hiding the fact. Women, they are so often at the source of evil.
Do you think so?
Man alive, don't you feel it in the air? All around you. We spoke of it yesterday at the ruins. The presence of evil.
Oui, Monsieur Lane, I feel it. Monsieur Lane, I wonder if I may ask you the questions somewhat painful.
Your kind gift has lifted my spirits considerably. I will answer if I can.
Your church was near Brixham, I believe.
Oh yes, I had a small living there. Why?
Are you familiar with Mrs. Potter's School for Young Ladies?
Why, oh yes, Miss Potter herself and several of the girls attended my church. Not as many as I would have liked, but some.
Do you recall the Conservatoire de Dance near there?
Oh yes, Miss Brewster, who is stopping here, was an instructor there.
Does the name Millie Parsons mean anything to you?
The murder. Yes, it caused quite a sensation. A teacher at Miss Porter's was accused. No charges were brought. Simply the ruin of a man's reputation. He may have been misguided, even driven. But the Parsons girl brought it upon herself. Of that I am convinced. And then, only a few weeks later, another murder. They must have been connected. And of that second crime, he was wholly innocent, I have no doubt. So what he said in a moment of weakness...
What did this teacher say to you?
I may no longer be of the cloth, Mr. Poirot, but I will keep the confidences learnt while I was still in God's service.
Even if it allows a murderer to go free?
Please! God must judge, not I.
Tell me of the second crime.
It received quite a bit of press at the time. Alice Corrigan was the name. Strangled, as was the Parsons girl. The husband was suspected, but again, no arrest was ever made. I'm convinced the two crimes were the work of one man.
And the motive?
Women are at the heart of many tragedies.
In this case, they were the victims of tragedy.
Can you doubt? They brought it upon themselves, through fornication, adultery, and godlessness.
It is my nature to doubt, Monsieur Lane.
Yes, of course. You're a detective. Still, I would think your experience would have paid witness to the truth of my words. I may have misunderstood and unburdened myself too freely. I must be off if I hope to reach the church and be back before it gets too late. Thank you again for the information.
Fellow is right round the bend, Poirot. He practically admitted he knew Millie Parsons' killer, yet did nothing because she was a girl, and somehow deserved it? That's monstrous.
It is true he appears to be quite selective when it comes to forgiveness and compassion. Yet it may very well be that decision to keep silent caused his breakdown. His pain runs deep, and the struggle, it continues. There may be hope for him still. Mademoiselle, if I may have a moment of your time?
I only have a few minutes, Monsieur Poirot. I'm meeting Mrs. Redfern at Sanctuary Cove at 10:30.
I will come straight to the point, mademoiselle. You were a student at Miss Potter's School for Young Ladies in Brixham, were you not?
I was. I'm not anymore, though.
Millie Parsons was a classmate of yours?
Yes.
A close friend?
Nah, not really. We knew her, my friends and I, to speak to. She seemed a harmless sort. Rather sweet, actually.
Why did you leave school?
Monsieur Poirot, I like you. But I'm not sure you have the right to ask me that question.
Did you know an instructor named Gideon Fell?
Yes, we had him for anthropology.
He was a poor teacher?
He was all right, I guess. I am very interested in anthropology. That helped, I suppose.
What most interested you in the class?
Superstition. Much of what we call superstition has a basis in fact. Religious practices and so on.
You did not like him?
At first, he seemed all right. He took several of us to the picture show to see a horror film called Curse of the Islands.
The film, it was frightening to you?
A bit, I suppose. But I found it quite interesting, actually. But then he started acting strangely towards some of the girls. He was creepy. Always making comments to girls when he thought no one could hear. Complimenting them on how they looked.
This interest, it was more than politeness?
A lot more.
Was he interested in Millie Parsons?
She told me he had followed her once in the woods. He grabbed her wrist. When she tried to break away, he said how much he liked her hair and her frock. She broke away and threatened to tell Miss Porter. She said he looked at her with his face all twisted up. It was horrible, she said.
Millie told Miss Porter of this incident?
No. One of the other girls had already complained, and she did nothing. She accused the girl of trying to make trouble for Mr. Fell, because he gave her bad marks.
After Millie's death, you said nothing of Mr. Fell?
I did. The police looked into it. They said he had an alibi. But I knew. My friends and I knew. You don't believe me, do you?
Au contraire, I have known many alibis that seemed unbreakable, only to shatter as easily as glass when the right force was applied.
He did it, Monsieur Poirot. He killed Millie. I have to change into my swimming costume now. Will you excuse me?
Of course. Thank you for speaking with me.
I say, Poirot, do you think you can break this Fell character's alibi?
If I can, Hastings, Miss Brewster and the police will have their answer. An interesting idea, that? But
Monsieur Poirot?
good morning, Madame Marshall. I regret I have not yet found the writer of those notes.
I wouldn't worry myself if I were you. In fact, I'd like you to forget about them.
You have learned the identity of the author?
Yes. And if there's any further bother, I will deal with it myself. Is that clear?
That could be dangerous. An argument will not assist us, Hastings. Better to comply. I will